This video is sponsored by U7Buy. Use U7Buy when you are purchasing Genesis crystals for Genshin Impact and other games. Use my link down in the description to support the channel. You actually do get a pretty hefty discount, as you guys can see on screen here, like over $20 for me in Canada here, buying the most expensive Genesis crystal pack. And if you have enjoyed my content and are buying gems for Genshin Impact, make sure to use my link so you can get not only a discount but also show some love and support here on the channel. Personally, for me, I never had to wait more than a couple minutes for my order to arrive, so just give that buffer time and be patient for your order. Thank you so much to U7Buy for sponsoring the video, and let's get into the content. Sup everyone, welcome to another video, and I swear to you when I tell you this, I tried to record this video like no less than 6 different times, twice on stream where it both failed due to technical problems, and then I tried to record it and get phone calls, get distracted. It seems like EroticWalruss doesn't want me to make this video. It seems like the universe doesn't want me to make this video, but I will make this video. So if this is your first time here, we talk about everything Genshin Impact. Although this video is purely out of my speculation, but I have been playing this game since the very beginning. I played like no less than 10, 12, 15 different gacha games throughout my life, seeing patterns, seeing how companies like to operate, and knowing EroticWalruss, I played Honkai Impact 3rd. I also am now playing Honkai Star Rail. So I think I am qualified to some degree to talk about EroticWalruss's tendencies and how they like to, I guess, just push and develop their characters in game. So let's start with this, right? The reason why I'm making this video, and I want you guys to understand the concept, is that when we talk about characters, we're not talking about the players, right? This is purely EroticWalruss's decision. If they want to power creep Nahida the next patch through a 3-star character, they can do it. It's up to them, it's their discretion. But the reason why they won't power creep certain characters, I believe, is obviously due to monetary reasons. EroticWalruss has set their sights on for the long goal. Their development plans goes far beyond Genshin Impact, far beyond Honkai Star Rail, far beyond Zenith Zone Zero. There's a high chance that by the time you and I are already in the dirt, EroticWalruss as a company, or maybe as a corporation, as it's going to develop into, will still likely have influence. So that's how far we're talking about, right? They want to turn this into like a legacy company. So they need money. When we dial it back down into Genshin Impact characters, how will they develop? Now, before we get any further, I just want to start by laying some groundwork. When we say power creep, I'm not saying like in every way, shape, or form, because let's be real here. Taking a character like Xingqiu versus a character like Yelan. Many would say Yelan is a 5-star version of Xingqiu, but only in the sense of like stats and general usefulness, right? Genshin prioritizes damage over anything else. You want more damage, as much of it as possible, and Yelan provides you that. However, there are parts of Xingqiu's kit, for example in his rain sword, he provides you damage reduction effects as well as healing, which Yelan doesn't have in her kit at all. So in that sense, are you really going to say Yelan is a full-on power creep of Xingqiu? It's not, right? And also due to the structure of Genshin Impact, first half, second half of it, you need 2 different teams. You need 8 characters. So oftentimes people will be like, well, a useful character getting power crept will only mean that we get to use them in both half of the abyss. So when I say power creep, I really mean like overall a better version of the character, but not in every aspect, right? That's my point here. So let's start with the 4-star characters. I'm not going to go through every single one of them because we can categorize a lot of these characters. I think every single 4-star character can be power creeped. So to say that a character like Xingqiu, character like Bennett, character like Hazel, obviously, characters like Dori, Layla, characters like Faruzan though, is where things gets a little tricky, because it is also my belief that 5-star unique buffers cannot be power crept. But if you're saying Walrus, if you're saying a character like Shinhe, a 5-star buffer cannot be power crept, what about a character like Faruzan? That's why I say it's very interesting, because Faruzan is a unique character in the game, as she is a Nemo buffer technically, right? And shredding and all that stuff. We don't need to get into details, but if I say a character like Shinhe cannot be power crept, what about a character like Faruzan? Now this gets into the details, right? Why is Shinhe not power crepable, whereas I think Faruzan is? It's because of money. This is where things gets interesting, right? So all 4-star characters can be power crept, even including unique buffers like Goro, like Faruzan, and even like a character like Yunjin who buffs normal attacks, which is very unique in of itself. I still think she can't be power crept. You know why? Because there's money to be made. Making a 5-star Yunjin, yes, it'll kill the character of Yunjin, but at the same time, it'll make people who needs this specific niche be able to open their wallets or pour out the gems they've saved to invest into a character that likely will be much longer lasting. Hence, we look at characters like Shinhe. When a character like Shinhe gets power crept, even in small aspects, right? A better version of Shinhe in a small area could challenge the character of Shinhe. So that's why characters like Shinhe cannot be power crept. It'd only be side upgrades, meaning let's say another 5-star character that uniquely focuses on physical DPS, right? Right now, Mika is out as a 4-star character, and I do think given enough time, all of these unique buffers likely will have 5-star version of themselves to capitalize on the money that's just sitting on the table essentially for Hoyoverse. But a character like Shinhe right now is a very desirable character in terms of big ass whalers when they come into the games. Like, what should I whale on? C6 Yelan, probably C6 Ayaka, C6 Shinhe. Huge combo to C6 both of these characters, and in the CN they call it the C12 goddess duo, and there's a good reason for that. Now imagine another 5-star version character come out better than Shinhe buffing cryo characters. How would that make the whales feel? Let's just not talk about potential repercussions for Shinhe's future rerun banners. Let's just talk about how it makes a whale feel that they open their wallet, spend a couple $1,000 maxing this character out, C6 R5, right? And then you release a character that pretty much usurps her. It doesn't leave a good taste in your mouth, and especially doesn't really do much for brand loyalty going forward. Hence why I don't think Shinhe is gonna get power creep. Now, does that mean this is the first character I think? Yes. I never said this video was gonna be about who you should invest into. I'm just telling you guys, characters that it's gonna be very difficult, not impossible, for Hoyoverse to power creep without completely ruining themselves in the process. And it's been proven, I believe, in the past that Hoyoverse cares about how whales spend money. A lot of their alterations to character design has been to incentivize people to spend more money in the game, such as developing incredibly valuable lower constellations, C1s, C2s. We saw it with Raiden Shogun. It broke record sales, and then they did it again with the Hida, and it performed extremely well, right? So they always tune the game towards to incentivize people to spend more money, and ruining 5-stars isn't a great way to incentivize people to spend money, right? You don't want to be spending and investing into characters that don't have a future. Now, moving on to the next major category of characters, I think every single 5-star DPS, 4-star DPS, if you're a DPS, if your goal is to deal damage, you can be power crept. This is why people always say it's never safe to highly invest into DPS characters. However, there are exceptions. For example, a character like Yelan. Well, I do think that her damage likely will be power crept. Her utility likely will be very difficult to do so. And if you're going to do both at the same time, well, then Yelan kind of just falls on her face, right? So characters in the position of Yelan is very difficult to fully power creep, but yes, if you're talking about certain aspects of your kit, like the damage department, I think can be power crept. Hydro application department has already been power crept, not power crept, but I guess like she never was the best, because Shinshu applies an insane amount of hydro on enemies, even better than Yelan. So she never really is the best. She's just a combination of characters with qualities that are very desirable. Great hydro application, buffs your teams in terms of damage. She herself does a good damage, right? She has great particle generation. She has great scaling multipliers on her elemental skill, and really good headroom for constellation growth. One of the best, if not the best in the game, right? There's a lot of great things for Yelan, but if you're talking about certain aspects of her kit, definitely could be power crept. But apart from a character like Shinhe, are you telling me, Walrus, that there's no other character in the game that can be power crept? You're saying Shinhe unique buffers are like the only characters that Hoyoverse can't really power creep? Well, not quite, because now we have to move into character like Kazuha. Now, this is very interesting. I think maybe some people will see it coming, others will be very skeptical because they've done it in the past, right? A character like Venti, who people would thought, oh well, there's no way they can power creep Venti. First and foremost, he's an Archon, and of course, how are you going to power creep a character so broken already? Well, Hoyoverse came in, showed you guys exactly how easy it is to kill off a character with Kazuha. And of course, it's not just Kazuha, it's also meta shift changes to the Abyss, which makes Venti less desirable, but we're not going to get into that. But the reason why I think Kazuha cannot get power crept is because if you look at Venti's sale after like 2.1, like his rerun sales hasn't done very well, right? Monetary wise, yes, people have pulled, but he's always come back with other characters on the banner, so you can't really attribute all of the value to Venti. Yes, pulling in millions of dollars, still very, very respectable, but compare that to maybe 20-30 million, we're talking like less than a fraction of the potential revenue that characters can be reaping in terms of Hoyoverse's more successful banner sales. So looking at Kazuha, if you do what you did to Venti, again, the same issue is like you do it once, okay, we forgive you, and it was also because Venti was impossible for them to balance, still is to this day. Venti is either like 80-90% usage rate, or he's sitting down at 5-10% usage rate. There's really no in between for Venti. Very, very difficult to balance this character for Hoyoverse. I don't know why they can't figure it out. I'm sure there are plenty of ways that even a community such as yourself can figure out how to make Venti a more in the pack kind of character. Hoyoverse can't seem to do it, right? So now Kazuha, who has essentially taken Venti's place, high usage rate, 70-80%, very consistent in terms of BIS usage because of his unique kit to not only buff elemental damage, but also applying Viridescence in a very easy and hassle-free way. So to power creep Kazuha, you need to do essentially two things. You need to have a good enough AoE application of Viridescence or another way to shred enemy elemental resistance, right? For example, a character such as Zhongli, which we'll talk about later, his shield gives aura resistance 20%, which I believe is half of the Viridescence. However, at the same time, it has almost double the duration. People don't care. People say like, no, Zhongli is a damage loss, we don't care about that. So just giving you guys reference, right? A character who gives aura resistance, right? Meaning all resistance, every single resistance. So meaning you have like a rainbow spectrum of characters on your team, they all can benefit from this 20% resistance shred. Still DPS loss, because Genshin Impact is a game where all the characters centralizes into one unit. So having all this additional aura shred is essentially useless, right? It sounds good, it's just convenient, but it's useless essentially when compared to the 40% target resistance shred of Kazuha's Viridescent application. Not as good. So to power creep him, like I said, you need to make a character who can apply better shred, target shred, or aura shred, whatever the hell. If you really want to just power creep everybody, just make another aura shred on par with Viridescence, then essentially he's already kind of power crept. But you need to make a better shred. On top of that, you have to have AoE application that has some sort of CC effect, because let's be honest, Kazuha's elemental skill, while it cannot rival Venti's burst skill, it's incredibly easy to use, and at the same time it impacts the field very quickly, and it's consistent. You know how it's going to work using yourself as the epicenter. It's very easy to set up. So all these things essentially has to be power creep. Now, yes, I do know that Kazuha has a talent that also buffs elemental damage, but I'm just saying, if you can power creep just those two aspects, this character would already be kind of gone in the water. I'll be honest with you guys, there will be enthusiasts who will still play him, but the vast majority of people will just move on to the next best thing. Oh, aura shred, which doesn't need to use Viridescence. Well, sign me up, right? Because Viridescence nowadays, you need to apply the element, switch into Kazuha, and you have to use Swirl to interact with that element, hence applying Viridescence. That's how it works. But if you have a character like Zhongli, let's for example, if Zhongli's aura shield gives you protection while also providing 40% all resistance shred, pretty broken, immediately power creeps Kazuha. That's why I say it's impossible, right? What we're basically saying is you are going to gut one of the most popular characters in the game, highly usage, highly invested. Many people have already invested into Kazuha, and many more will still continue to do so. And you're going to tell me they're going to make a character that's just better than him? Now, not even talking about Venti's current role, you're going to gut the person who basically replaced an entire Archon, and you're gonna gut him? I don't think so, because till the end of Genshin Impact, it is highly unlikely that Hoyoverse is going to pull another stunt with what happened to Venti. I always say in my videos that that was damage control, and they couldn't really figure out a solution moving forward, so they just had to gut Venti, and they can't do it without giving us a replacement, and Kazuha was that replacement. So now we've arrived at the two characters that I've already mentioned, Shinhe, Kazuha. I think these two characters are almost damn near impossible for Hoyoverse to power creep. Everybody else can, but what about the Archon, right? So we just talked about Venti, the Anima Archon, so it's already saying like Archons aren't safe either. Venti, in fact, is a character that actually has the most severe drop-off of usage. He basically went from almost 100% usage to close to 0% in like 2-3 patches. Like they completely destroyed this character in terms of how useful he is in the Abyss. What about Zhongli, right? What about Raiden, Shogun, and of course the newest addition, Nahida? This is why I think Archons are very difficult to put a finger on, because while on one side they are incredibly strong characters that if you invested in them, you're pretty set for like multiple years. But I cannot guarantee you that until the end of the game that there won't be a character that comes out that can power creep these characters. Now, the reasoning for it is a little different than Kazuha. Well, I think that there are characters in the game with better CC. There are characters in the game that are capable of buffing your team. It may be better. There isn't a character in the game, and there likely won't be a character to ever come out that can do it as well as Kazuha. He is going to be a character of the highest order in that specific niche, and of course making a character that trivializes Viridescence isn't going to do Hoyoverse any justice either. Having people farming for these artifact sets is going to be great, even if it's just a couple tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars every now and then for people to refresh resin to farm and grind out these artifacts. That's still some good valuable side cash. But a character like, let's say, Nahida, the most recent Archon, she right now looks very difficult to power creep, but that's also because we don't have a good roster of Dendro characters yet. Her Dendro application combined with her EM buffing is going to be the biggest reason why people will likely think that, well, you know, you can't make a character that has good EM buffing or better EM buffing with just as good as Dendro application and power creep Nahida. But my point here is that how long will it take before one or the other starts to appear? Can we have a character that has better Dendro application? Can we have a character that has better EM buffing? These things aren't mutually exclusive. They are two different features, just like when I mentioned Kazuha. Do you guys ever think a character will come along that can shred enemies better than Kazuha? You see, that's a question mark. The other side is, well, what about his CC? Well, he's already not the best CC in the game. So it's the fact that I mentioned two uniquely important features combined together, or multiple unique features. He also buffs elemental damage. All of these things combined makes a great character. Whereas Nahida, how important is the combination of great Dendro application versus EM buffing? It's incredibly valuable in terms of Dendro, but what about outside of it, right? How is Hoyoverse going to develop the melt meta? Is also going to impact how reliable Nahida is going forward into the future meta space. That's a big question mark that we have to answer. And looking at a character like Zhongli, he's already slipping more and more further down the usage rate. People think that for the most part he's a damage loss, and when it comes to Raiden Shogun, she has been a very, very big benefactor of the arrival of Dendro. Her C0 has only gotten better with time, and currently she's still sitting incredibly comfortably as one of the most used characters in the game, and she does so many different things. She can be an electro applicator, she can be just a C0 driver, universal battery. At C2 she can turn into a hyper carry, right? So all these things is amazing for her. However, at the same time, because a lot of her kit leans into being a DPS as well as you scale her up in Constellation, that aspect is not guaranteed to be safe. But her unique kit of being a universal battery on top of being a great DPS and electro applicator, I think these three aspects likely will never be touched in the game, hence making Raiden Shogun an incredibly safe character to invest into. Right now, while Nahida is a big question mark, Raiden Shogun is a very solid overall investment. Zhongli is actually the one that I am the most worried for, because to be honest with you guys, all aura shred, while it's good and very comfortable to use, I don't think it's going to be everlasting, because Zhongli's main role has always been his shield, his big fat shield. And even with that, a lot of people choose not to run him. It's not that he's gonna be really easily power crept, it's just that there likely will come a character in the future that will fall into a niche of maybe a more defensive character, but offers a little more incentive for offense that will eventually replace Zhongli. I can see it happening. He's not that unique. He doesn't offer as many crazy things as a character like Raiden Shogun, because Raiden Shogun is very offensive focused, right? Whereas Zhongli is a defensive focused character with some offensive capabilities and CC, right? We can't forget his petrification, but even then it's just not enough to stay wildly competitive with the other two Archons. But who knows? Maybe Hoyoverse is keeping all the characters at a lukewarm performance so that Archons can be these forever shining beacons in the meta space, right? But who knows? That's all I got for you guys. I honestly think that Raiden Shogun is the only Archon that is going to be difficult for Hoyoverse to power creep, but Nahida, time will tell. But Shenhe, Raiden Shogun, Kazuha, These 3 characters, I don't think Hoyoverse will ever touch them in any way, shape, or form, because it just influences the game way too much, and it also impacts them financially way too hard. But comment down below who you think are characters that likely will never ever get Powercrept, and make sure to give this video a like. Check out U7Buy as well for sponsoring the channel and get some cheap Primo gems. Until next time, I urge y'all to stay safe. Peace, bye bye.